It's a new year and Huawei is throwing their hat back into the ring with their first flagship phone of 2022, the HUAWEI P50 Pro that packs a premium design, top shelf specifications and their best camera hardware available. But how does it match up against one of the most popular smartphones in the market, the Apple iPhone 13 Pro? Launched in the tail end of 2021, the Apple iPhone 13 Pro is one of 4 iPhone 13 models released and is only surpassed by their highest end variant, the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Today, we'll be doing a quick comparison with both of these heavyweights and see how they stack up against one another. To be fair, both have very unique strengths and it isn't, to coin the phrase, a direct apples to apples approach. But we'll approach this comparison as fairly as possible to each phone so that you, dear viewer, can make an informed choice of your own. Let's get started. Seeing as smartphones are around us for the better part of our day, from the moment we wake up to the moment we get to bed, how much it weighs and how well it's designed are pretty important factors when buying a phone. Both Huawei and Apple have brought their A game when it comes to design, with each brand offering their own take on what a premium flagship phone ought to look like, influenced by their own design philosophies. Here's how they both look like on paper in terms of color options, weight, and dimensions. The Huawei P50 Pro has a distinctive dual matrix camera design that evokes the look of an old film camera, while the iPhone 13 Pro looks similar to its predecessor, the iPhone 12 Pro, from the back, with a squarish camera housing. When placed side by side, the iPhone 13 Pro is slightly smaller and thinner than the P50 Pro, though the P50 Pro has a larger display and a larger battery capacity to make up for it, while also being lighter by 8 grams. Color choices for the P50 Pro in global markets are Cocoa Gold and Golden Black, while the Apple iPhone 13 Pro comes in 4 color choices: Graphite, Gold, Silver, and Sierra Blue. Color choices aside, both the P50 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro feature a premium glass and metal finish chassis, and both have IP68 water and dust resistance. Both phones look and feel suitably top shelf in almost every way, befitting their flagship status while being very visually distinctive. Display size, refresh rate, and color reproduction are critical factors in a smartphone display, but the challenge here is offering as much high-quality screen real estate as possible without it being heavy, clunky, or both. Here's how the Apple iPhone 13 Pro and the Huawei P50 Pro measure up. The P50 Pro packs a larger 6.6-inch OLED display with a 91.2% screen-to-body ratio versus the smaller iPhone 13 Pro, which has a smaller 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR display with ProMotion and 86% screen-to-body ratio. Both phones have up to a 120Hz refresh rate, but the iPhone 13 Pro does have a slight advantage in having a denser pixels per inch, but the difference to the naked eye are minute at best. Both displays are very readable at all angles and the usual lighting condition scenarios, indoors and outdoors. Both offer great color rendition, responsiveness, and smoothness for scrolling through websites and gaming, with both phones offering up to a 120Hz refresh rate, though the P50 Pro has a slight advantage, as it does have a larger display and a larger screen-to-body ratio. Befitting their status as flagship phones, both the P50 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro are equipped with the best hardware that the boys from Shenzhen and Cupertino can muster. Here's how they stack up in terms of specifications. Both phones are packed with the best hardware available, with the P50 Pro packing a top-of-the-line Snapdragon 888 CPU that powers many other flagship phones, and Apple, being Apple, has their own custom Bionic A15 chip. In Malaysia, the P50 Pro only has one storage variant with 256GB of storage, while the iPhone 13 Pro has multiple storage variants all the way up to 1TB. Some interesting facts to mention are that the P50 Pro maxes out with a 4G modem, while the iPhone 13 Pro has 5G baked in. If you really need 5G connectivity right now, the P50 Pro may not be the right choice for you, though 5G as it is isn't as prevalent yet at this point in time that you enjoy its full benefits. In benchmarks, Apple's Bionic A15 chip outpaces the Snapdragon 888 processor on almost all fronts. However, synthetic benchmarks aren't the final determinant of performance. Under practical usage conditions, both phones perform in a smooth fashion. Swapping between multiple apps and browser tabs happen without issue, and apps ran without a hitch. Ultimately, both phones will provide a flagship experience, with the main differentiator being the operating system you prefer, be it iOS or EMUI, but the next biggest tiebreaker are their cameras. One of the biggest features that people look for in phones are their cameras. It's not just about which phone has the best optics and camera sensors though, as it's also about which one has a better implementation of computational photography techniques to enhance image quality and capture special scenarios like night shots and portrait modes. Here's how both phones' cameras compare to each other on paper. Deeper comparison between smartphone cameras will be the subject of a different video, so for the sake of brevity, we'll cover the broad highlights and show test results captured in auto mode for both the P50 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro. The P50 Pro's rear camera array is a quad camera setup dubbed the dual matrix camera system that is built around a 50 megapixel true chroma camera with OIS, a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, a 40 megapixel true chroma mono camera, and a 64 megapixel telephoto camera with 3.5 times optical zoom and up to 100 times digital zoom. At a glance, it's capable of up to 4K at 60 frames per second video, up to 100 times digital zoom, up to 2.5cm macro shots, and has their Huawei XD Fusion Pro image engine for better image quality and more accurate color reproduction via their true chroma image engine. In the other side of the ring, the Apple iPhone 13 Pro has a triple camera setup, all of which have a 12 megapixel sensor with one sensor packing 3 times optical zoom, OIS and up to 15 times digital zoom, another sensor featuring an ultra wide angle lens, while a third primary camera has a larger 1.9 micropixels dual pixel face detection autofocus and sensor shift OIS. Added to this is a TOF 3D LiDAR scanner to create depth detail for portraits and faster autofocus in low light scenarios. It also notably has a cinematic video mode at up to 1080p at 30 frames per second. Huawei P50 Pro has a bunch of improvements with an ambient light sensing system and true chroma image engine that offers 20% better color accuracy. The iPhone 13 Pro has a LiDAR scanner for better night mode portraits, a deep fusion neural engine for better detail, upgraded autofocus and a faster sensor for the ultra wide camera that allows for 92% more light, and a night mode for the telephoto camera. In general, both the Huawei P50 Pro and the Apple iPhone 13 Pro's rear cameras are capable of excellent shots in daylight conditions, and color rendition is great for both phones, including the front cameras, and it's hard to get a bad shot with either one. While both cameras deliver quite pleasing shots under most scenarios, the P50 Pro does have an edge in zoom capability with 3.5 times optical zoom and 100 times digital zoom, while the iPhone 13 Pro maxes out at 3 times optical zoom and 15 times digital zoom. In the case of the P50 Pro, it's sharp enough that you can legibly make out the facade on the TRX tower on the other side of town using its 100 times digital zoom versus the iPhone 13 Pro's maximum 15 times digital zoom. Here's a quick test shot of both the P50 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro capturing 4K at 60 frames per second video on auto mode. Both phones leverage computational photography on top of hardware for low-light image capture, with the iPhone 13 Pro leveraging their neural engine in their A15 Bionic processor, and Huawei's P50 Pro taking advantage of their XD optics algorithm. Even in dim light, you can still make out individual details with both phones capturing good shots in auto mode, and also featuring a night mode. The P50 Pro edges out in capturing low-light images with brighter shots and recovers a bit more detail, though the iPhone 13 Pro has slightly more natural-looking results. Overall, both phones offer very good image quality. Both Huawei and Apple feature their own app stores, with Huawei's phones running on their own EMUI OS and their App Gallery app store, which has matured since its inception in the past several years to feature quite a diverse array of apps. If an app is not available in the App Gallery, users can use Huawei's own Petal Search to find or sideload an alternative from a third-party app repository, though it's a bit of a legal grey area, to be fair. The iPhone 13 Pro runs on their iOS and gets apps via the Apple App Store, which has been around for yonks. You're looking at a large, mature and deep app store with a variety of apps available for almost every conceivable niche and need. So Apple does gain an edge here as they've been around longer. While many detractors say that Huawei phones don't have Google apps, the fact of the matter is that neither does Apple, as both brands Apple and Huawei have their own app stores and their own ecosystems. It's a misnomer to say that Huawei phones without Google are useless, as there's plenty of workarounds that are available now to gain access to their apps, so it's much less of a factor than before. Boiled down, the Huawei App Gallery features the apps that locals in Malaysia are reliant on for banking, productivity, social media and the like, which are all readily available on the Huawei App Gallery, though the Apple App Store does edge out over the App Gallery in terms of app variety, though it doesn't allow for side loading, so it's a matter of personal taste. Objectively speaking, both the Huawei P50 Pro and the Apple iPhone 13 Pro both have their strengths, and it's not a case of a clear-cut winner, as both have flagship-grade hardware, great displays and cameras. The P50 Pro edges out in regards to a larger screen, a larger battery, and a camera array with better zoom and low-light performance. The iPhone 13 Pro benefits from a more mature and integrated app ecosystem and better performance on its custom Bionic A15 chip. If you're not tied up with an app ecosystem just yet, the Huawei P50 Pro does objectively offer better value, as it will retail for 4,199 ringgit and ship with a free 66-watt charger and casing for Malaysia, though this may vary with different regions. In the case of the iPhone 13 Pro, with an equivalent 256GB of storage, you're easily looking at 5,399 ringgit. The choice, of course, is yours to make. Thanks for watching and see you all next time.